INFJs live in two worlds at once, the one everyone sees and the one that never leaves their mind. And the truth is, most people have no idea what's really going on up there. What do they secretly think about when no one's watching? Let's uncover 10 unusual thoughts that run through the INFJ mind almost every single day, some uplifting, some unsettling, and all of them guaranteed to surprise you. Let's dive in. All right, first thing first, the meaning behind every small detail. Have you ever noticed how some people can walk into a room, have a quick chat, and move on without thinking twice? That's not how INFJs operate. For them, every word, every gesture, even the way someone shifts in their chair feels like a hidden code waiting to be cracked. Where most people see casual small talk, INFJs see layers of meaning, like subtext running beneath the conversation. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about a mind that naturally connects dots others don't even realize exist. If your voice trembles ever so slightly when you say, "I'm fine," an INFJ isn't just hearing the words, they're hearing the conflict between what you said and what you actually feel. They'll notice if you smiled too quickly, if you avoided eye contact for half a second, or if your tone didn't quite match the story you told. And while you've already moved on, the INFJ is still processing, replaying, analyzing. Here's the controversial part. INFJs can sometimes create entire narratives around those details, stories that may or may not be true. Their gift of perception can cross into overthinking, making them question motives and invent explanations where none exist. It's a double-edged sword. On one side, this ability makes them incredibly intuitive friends, partners, and leaders, people who can sense when something is wrong before anyone says a word. On the other side, it can trap them in spirals of self-doubt, wondering if they misread a sign or imagined a meaning that was never there. Psychologists might say this comes from the INFJ's dominant function, introverted intuition, which thrives on patterns, connections, and hidden truths. But to the INFJ, it feels less like theory and more like survival. Their brain is always asking, what's really happening here? What's the truth behind the mask? It's why so many INFJs describe life as watching two conversations at once, the one happening in front of them and the one happening beneath the surface. So the next time an INFJ seems quiet after a simple exchange, it's not because they didn't care. It's because, in their mind, they've just pieced together a puzzle that no one else even realized was on the table. And to them, those small details aren't small at all, they're everything. And next up, the constant parallel reality. What if I told you that while you're having a normal conversation with an INFJ, they might be living in 2, 3, or even 10 different versions of that same moment inside their head? INFJs don't just exist in the present reality, they constantly run mental simulations, parallel worlds of what could happen if things went differently. Picture this, you're telling a story, an INFJ is listening, nodding, and engaging with you. But at the same time, their mind is projecting alternative scenarios. What if you had made a different choice? What if you'd said the opposite? What if something unexpected happened right now? It's like they're holding the current reality in one hand, while juggling countless alternate realities in the other. This unusual way of thinking comes from their dominant intuition, which is always searching for hidden patterns and future possibilities. It's almost like a defense mechanism, a way of preparing for the unknown. If one version of reality falls apart, the INFJ already has a backup plan hidden in their mental filing cabinet. That's why they often seem one step ahead of everyone else, almost eerily predictive of what's coming next. But here's the paradox. Living in these parallel realities can be both empowering and exhausting. On the empowering side, it gives INFJs an uncanny ability to anticipate outcomes, avoid conflict, or make decisions that feel almost prophetic. On the exhausting side, it can leave them trapped in endless what-ifs, unable to fully rest in the present moment. They're always asking themselves, what if I choose wrong? What if I missed the better path? For INFJs, life is rarely a single straight line. It's a branching tree of infinite possibilities, and their mind is constantly climbing from branch to branch, testing which one might hold their weight. To others, it might look like overthinking, but to an INFJ, it feels like wisdom, because they've already walked through a dozen possible futures before most people have even finished one sentence. So the next time you're with an INFJ and they pause, gaze off, or hesitate before responding, it's not that they're distracted. It's that They've just traveled through a parallel reality and returned with an answer you probably haven't even thought of yet. Third on the list, people's true intentions, not their words. Have you ever felt like someone could see right through you, even when you were smiling and saying all the right things? That's the INFJ experience. They're not just listening to the words you speak, they're analyzing the invisible motives behind them. While most people take conversations at face value, INFJs instinctively scan for what's hidden underneath. If you say, "I'm so happy for you," but your tone carries even the slightest edge of envy, they'll catch it. If you insist, "I don't mind," but your body tenses for a split second, they'll feel it. For INFJs, words are the least reliable part of human interaction. They're far more interested in what you didn't say. This ability can feel almost supernatural, which is why INFJs are often called mind readers. But it's not magic, it's psychology. They're attuned to subtle cues most people overlook, micro-expressions, shifts in energy, patterns in behavior. Their intuition processes those signals instantly, building a picture of your true state of mind. By the time you've finished your sentence, the INFJ has already guessed what you're really thinking. But here's the controversial side. INFJs don't always get it right. Their gift of perception can sometimes turn into projection. They might assume someone's motives based on patterns from past experiences, even when the current situation is different. This can create misunderstandings, especially when they sense something off that the other person doesn't consciously recognize in themselves. Still, this constant scanning for truth explains why INFJs are so hard to deceive. Lies and hidden agendas rarely escape them. And it's also why many people feel strangely vulnerable around INFJs, as if they've been seen without meaning to reveal themselves. To the INFJ, this isn't about exposing people, it's about seeking authenticity. They want to know who you are when the mask comes off. So if you ever feel like an INFJ isn't convinced by your words, don't take it personally. They're not doubting you, they're simply wired to listen to the soul behind the sentence. And more often than not, they'll hear the truth long before you're ready to say it out loud. Fourthly, the hidden suffering of others. INFJs have a secret they rarely talk about. They can't stop noticing pain that other people overlook. While most people walk past a stranger without a second thought, the INFJ's mind lingers, asking questions no one else does. Are they okay? What's their story? What burden are they carrying that no one sees? This is empathy at a level that feels almost intrusive. Watching a movie, an INFJ doesn't just follow the main plot. They'll obsess over the side character in the background who looked lonely, or the extra who walked away with their head down. They don't just consume stories, they emotionally live inside them. And in real life, it's even stronger. A single glance can spark entire chains of thought about how someone's life could be better, safer, or happier. The paradox is that INFJs don't just notice suffering. They immediately start imagining solutions. They wonder how systems could change, how people could be supported, how the world itself could be fixed. It's like their brain is programmed to see not only the wound, but also the potential cure. That's why so many INFJs end up as healers, advocates, or quiet rescuers, even when nobody asks them to step in. But here's the heavy part. This sensitivity comes at a cost. Carrying the invisible suffering of others can feel overwhelming. It's like absorbing emotional weight without having anywhere to put it down. That's why INFJs sometimes retreat, appearing distant or drained. It's not because they don't care, but because they care too much. Psychologists might call this heightened empathy a blend of intuition and emotional attunement. But to the INFJ, it doesn't feel like science. It feels like a responsibility, a moral pull that they can't ignore. They see the broken pieces of people and imagine how to put them back together, even when it's not their burden to carry. So, when you notice an INFJ getting quiet in the middle of a busy room, don't mistake it for disinterest. Chances are, they're not disengaged at all. They're silently fighting battles that belong to everyone else, because for them, the hidden suffering of others is never truly invisible. And fifthly, the future they don't talk about. Most people think about the future in quick flashes. What's for dinner tomorrow, maybe where they'll be in a year. For INFJs, it's completely different. They don't just peek at the future, they live in it. Their minds are constantly projecting forward, mapping out long-term outcomes and imagining what's coming next. The fascinating part is that it's not just their own future they're thinking about. They'll picture where their friends will be in 10 years, how relationships will evolve, even how society might look 50 years from now. An INFJ doesn't just see a person as they are today. They see the potential version of that person years down the line. It's like watching someone's highlight reel of possibilities before it even happens. But here's where it gets complicated. INFJs rarely talk about these visions. They hold them close because they know how they sound. If they said, "I think this friendship will fall apart in 3 years," or "You're going to regret this decision in 6 months," most people wouldn't take them seriously. So they stay quiet, carrying these imagined futures in silence. Psychologists often tie this to the INFJ's dominant function, introverted intuition. It's wired to spot patterns and predict outcomes, almost like connecting invisible dots. For the INFJ, it doesn't feel like guesswork, it feels like certainty. And more often than not, they're right. That uncanny ability to anticipate results is why many INFJs feel both gifted and burdened, because knowing what might happen doesn't mean they can change it. The hidden truth is that this way of thinking can be lonely. Living in the future means INFJs sometimes struggle to stay in the present. While everyone else is enjoying today, the INFJ is already solving problems for a tomorrow no one else can see yet. So when an INFJ goes quiet, staring off into the distance, it's not because they're bored. It's because they're walking through a version of the future they may never tell you about. And in their minds, those imagined futures feel just as real as the present moment. 6 on the list: moral dilemmas nobody asked about. Have you ever caught yourself debating an imaginary scenario in your head? INFJs do this all the time, but at a much deeper level. While most people worry about everyday choices like what to eat or what to wear, INFJs are wrestling with moral dilemmas that sound more like philosophy class than casual daydreaming. They'll ask themselves questions like, would I betray one friend to save many? Or is it better to be brutally honest, even if it hurts, or to stay silent to protect someone's feelings? These are the kinds of thoughts that swirl in the background of an INFJ's mind, often without any real-world trigger. It's like their brain is constantly preparing for ethical battles that may never happen. The reason is simple. INFJs value integrity and consistency. They don't want to be caught off guard when life forces them into tough decisions. So they test themselves in advance, playing out the possibilities, examining their values from every angle. For them, it's not wasted energy. It's training for life's most difficult moments. But here's the controversial part. These private debates can make INFJs seem intense or even judgmental. They're not trying to moralize other people's choices, but because they've thought so deeply about right and wrong, they can come across as uncompromising. And when they finally do share their perspective, it's often sharper and more developed than most people are ready for. This constant moral sparring is part of what makes INFJs natural advisors and counselors. They can anticipate ethical crossroads and guide others with clarity because they've already walked those paths in their imagination. Yet it can also leave them feeling isolated, like they're carrying the weight of decisions that others never even think about. So when you see an INFJ lost in thought, they're probably not zoning out. Chances are they're quietly debating a question like, what's more important, truth, kindness, or justice? And for them, the answer to that question could shape everything they do in the real world. 7thly, unspoken social contracts. Every relationship has invisible rules. Most people don't think about them much, but INFJs can't help it. They're constantly aware of the silent agreements that hold friendships, families, and even casual interactions together. For example, if you text an INFJ and they reply quickly, they'll notice if you don't return that same effort. If you open up about your struggles, they'll remember it as a bond of trust, and they'll expect that one day when they're vulnerable, you'll do the same. To an INFJ, these aren't small details. They're the unwritten contracts that make human connection feel safe and balanced. This is where their empathy and intuition collide. INFJs can sense what people need without them saying a word. They pick up on expectations others don't even realize they're projecting, like the friend who secretly wants recognition, or the family member who expects loyalty without ever asking for it. It's like INFJs are keeping track of an invisible ledger of give and take in every relationship. But here's the catch. Most people don't think this way. They don't measure conversations, favors, or emotional exchanges with such precision. That means INFJs often end up feeling unappreciated because they're honoring contracts that no one else even knows exist. It can leave them drained, confused, and questioning why they seem to care more than others. The truth is, this awareness comes from their deep need for harmony and fairness. They believe relationships should be reciprocal, that energy should flow both ways. When it doesn't, they don't just feel disappointed, they feel betrayed. And that's why INFJs sometimes retreat or even cut ties abruptly. It's not out of pettiness, it's out of exhaustion from carrying a weight nobody else acknowledged. So the next time an INFJ seems unusually distant, it might not be because of anything you said. It might be because, in their mind, the unspoken contract between you has already been broken. And once that trust is gone, it's almost impossible for them to see the relationship the same way again. Eighthly, the weight of the collective. Most people carry their own problems, stress about work, bills, relationships. But INFJs carry something much heavier, the weight of the entire collective. They don't just think about their own lives, they think about humanity as a whole. When they scroll past headlines about poverty, injustice, or climate change, they don't just sigh and move on. Those stories live in their minds for days. They ask themselves, how could I change this? How could the world do better? And even though they know they can't solve everything, their brains refuse to let go. It's empathy magnified on a global scale. An INFJ might sit quietly in a room, but in their mind, they're wrestling with impossible questions. How do we fix systems that are broken? How do we protect people who are voiceless? How do we heal wounds that feel too deep to repair? These aren't passing thoughts. They're recurring themes, a constant mental background noise. The gift of this mindset is that INFJs often become visionaries, advocates, and change makers. They're the ones who see beyond personal success and ask what kind of legacy they're leaving behind. But the curse is that it can feel overwhelming, even paralyzing. Carrying the world's pain on your shoulders when you're only one person creates a constant battle between hope and helplessness. Psychologically, this comes from their ability to merge intuition with empathy, to connect personal emotions with global issues. For an INFJ, the suffering of strangers doesn't feel distant, it feels personal, and that's why they often need time alone, not to disconnect from the world, but to recharge from the crushing weight of caring too much. So if an INFJ seems lost in thought, don't assume they're distracted or uninterested. Chances are they're quietly carrying the weight of problems that belong to all of us. They're not just thinking about their own life, they're thinking about the world's too. Ninthly, the double life fantasy. What if I told you that many INFJs secretly imagine living a completely different life, sometimes multiple lives at once? It's one of their most unusual habits, and it reveals just how complex their inner world really is. To the outside world, INFJs might look grounded, steady, even predictable, but inside, they're running vivid scenarios of alternate realities. What if I had chosen a different career? What if I moved to another country? What if I completely reinvented myself as someone new? These aren't fleeting thoughts. They're deep explorations of who they could have been. This doesn't always come from dissatisfaction. It often comes from curiosity. INFJs are natural seekers of meaning, and imagining different versions of their lives helps them explore identities, values, and possibilities without ever leaving the room. It's like trying on alternate selves, testing what feels true and what doesn't. But here's the twist. These fantasies can also act as an escape. When the world feels overwhelming, the INFJ's mind creates a doorway into another version of life, one where things might feel freer, simpler, or more aligned. And while they might never act on these alternate scripts, just imagining them gives relief. Psychologists might describe this as a mix of creativity, intuition, and idealism. But to the INFJ, it feels more personal. It's a way of balancing the weight of reality with the freedom of possibility. Living one life often feels too limiting when their imagination insists on exploring 10. So when an INFJ goes quiet, don't assume they're simply zoning out. Chances are they're stepping into another version of themselves. One that exists only in their mind, but feels just as real as the life you see in front of you. Last but not least, we've got the secret script of every interaction. What if every conversation you've ever had with an INFJ was replayed in their mind, edited, rewritten, and given alternate endings? Because that's exactly what happens. After even the simplest interaction, INFJs often run it back like a movie director in the editing room. They analyze every line, every pause, every glance, and then imagine how it could have gone differently. Did they say the right thing? Did they miss a hidden meaning? Should they have been more honest, more kind, or more direct? The script plays again and again until they've exhausted every angle, but it doesn't stop there. They also create scripts for conversations that haven't even happened yet. Before meeting someone, an INFJ may mentally rehearse what they'll say, how the other person might react, and how they'll respond in turn. It's like carrying around a stack of scripts for possible scenes, ready to adapt on the spot. The gift of this is clear. When an INFJ finally speaks, their words often carry weight. They've been tested and refined through countless mental drafts. It's why INFJs can come across as thoughtful, articulate, and intentional. Nothing feels wasted. The downside, it's exhausting. Reliving every interaction and pre-planning the next can trap INFJs in overthinking. They sometimes struggle to accept conversations as messy, imperfect, and human. When they replay those scripts too often, they can become stuck in regret over what they should have said. Psychologically, this comes from their mix of empathy and intuition. They want to get things right, not just for themselves, but for the people around them. Every word feels like it has the power to heal or to hurt, so they treat language like something sacred. So the next time you walk away from a chat with an INFJ, remember this. In their mind, the conversation isn't over. They're still editing, still refining, still searching for the version that feels just right. And that's why when they do speak their truth, it often feels like it came from a place deeper than words. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the INFJ mind, let me know in the comments which part resonated with you the most, or maybe which one surprised you. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you want more videos like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It really helps support the channel and make sure you don't miss the next one.